Welcome to the Choose Hard podcast, the one and only fitness and nutrition podcast that goes way beyond just training and nutrition. It helps you choose hard to transform your body and your mind. Now, today's podcast definitely goes beyond training and nutrition. We're going to tap into leadership. We're going to tap into fatherhood. We're going to tap into mindset. We're going to tap into spirituality. We're going to talk about God. We're going to talk about transforming your life, depression, burnout, death, a lot. This is a deep one. But for any of the guys out there that are fathers, that are entrepreneurs, that are leaders, and this is not to say that women should not listen to this as well. This is just to say this one is definitely geared towards the men who need to step up, who need a transformation, who need a breakthrough. And Cody Jefferson is my guest today, and he is going to bring you what you need in order to do that. He's going to tell a story too. His story is amazing. I've known this guy for a long time. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to generating wealth, building brands and company acquisition deals, finances, but he's also a former pastor. He is a father. He has been through divorce. He has been to more funerals than any human being should ever have to go to and be a part of. He has experienced so much in life, and he really brings that in this real, raw, and very relative conversation about helping you get results in your life today for the Choose Hard podcast. Very blessed and honored to have Cody Jefferson on this podcast. I think you're going to learn so much from him, and I'm very excited to bring a good friend, a mentor from afar, and somebody I have followed and looked up to for a very long time on this show. So without any further ado, let's talk to the one and only Cody Jefferson.
The greatest things in life all start with a challenge.
You must accept that everything is hard before it gets easy.
Everything you want in life begins with a hard path.
All right, brother. I'm excited for this one, man. And I got a little bit of an intro for you. I'm gonna.
Okay.
I usually don't write this out, but I felt like I wanted to for you. So, and you can add anything you want to this, but this is what I got. Cody is a father, husband, leader, tatted up pastor turned entrepreneur, a guy with abnormally great hair and unmatched sense of fashion, and someone who displays equanimity with success very well, and it pulls me in. I want to learn more about you, man. I want to dive into how you are who you are today, and you're somebody I admire from afar. We've had multiple conversations in the past, so I know that you know this, and I just respect you a lot, man. So I'm excited for the listeners to hear you, to learn about you, and learn from you.
Man, well, one, I appreciate that was a great intro. That was the first one that I think hasn't just been right off my website, so well played there. And dude, likewise, man. We've been connected for a long time, and I've always loved watching your journey. I think you are one of the few in the space that, man, you've just been so unequivocally yourself. And I don't know if that's something that is always been true for you, or if finding that path has been a bit of a journey even behind the scenes, but always your content is always spot on. All of your merch is always spot on. Everything's consistent. Your messaging is consistent. You always seem to be super lean, which is annoying. So here we are.
Thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you. And man, I'll tell you this, that I think I've always had, I guess I've never really called it a core value of mine, but it is. It's something that, I practice and I really focus on is authenticity and just being myself. And I've gone through periods of time, especially being where I am located in the country, where it's hard to do that sometimes.
Sure.
Being myself is not normal to some people. And it's.
Where are you out of?
I'm in Washington State.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it's not. It's not the most godly state. It's not the friendliest state.
Fair enough.
It's cloudy and gray. But it is. But anyway, man, this is not about me. This is about you. And I want to get into your story first and foremost, because I think it paints such a good picture and provides so much context into how much value you can bring, and it'll just provide us with a good context going into the next questions and series of questions that I ask you in the conversation. So first and foremost, why did you become a pastor? Like, explain that, because I think if anybody's watching this on Spotify or YouTube, they'll look at you and be like, wait, what? This dude was a pastor? And in some ways, I think you still are. But explain that. How did that come about?
Man, I wish I had just the best, I was a vision and a dream, and I was on a mountain and God just spoke to me and it was amazing. I know pastors who've had that kind of experience. I did not. So I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a deacon. My grandmother was as involved as a human being could be. We traveled. My grandfather was the president of the Oklahoma Gospel Singing Association. So that's how I got into music so early. And so church was just ingrained in us. Summer camps, VBS, all the things. Small Southern Baptist church in rural Oklahoma. You'll hear it in my voice. Occasionally my accent will peek out. I do a pretty good job of not sounding like I'm from Oklahoma when I'm thinking about it. But if I don't think about it, watch out. It'll get you. So grew up, but my family was a little different. So my parents got divorced when I was very, very young. And it was pretty tumultuous for a few years, very, very unhealthy. And then my dad was able to get custody of us at the end of my 4th grade year, but worked all the time. He was a true working single parent, single income. And so my grandparents raised us right alongside him, and all of our summers were spent with them. And so had a little bit of a different view growing up than most kids. We didn't have the normal experience of most families having like a 2-story house and 2 parents in the house. Our house was a single bedroom trailer. And when your house is on wheels and everybody else is at the church has 2 parents and their house isn't, you just kind of don't really fit in, and they don't really know what to do with you. So when I got into high school, I just had a lot of questions that the church couldn't answer. So I stepped out, and I was managing a garage. So I'm a licensed mechanic for about 23 years. And so I was managing a garage, and the owner kept inviting me to church. And I'm good, dude. I've been there. I've done that. It's cool. I love that it works for you. It's just not really for somebody like me. And so he asked me on a Saturday night if I'd go to coffee to talk about putting in a restoration bay in the shop, because we're going to start doing some restorations. I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we go and sit down. And the coffee shop was in a church. He bait and switched me. But I'd never seen a church like this. My church was like 200 people. This was 5,000 people. This was one of the first like charismatic mega churches. I'd never seen anything like it, Cody. It was, the music didn't suck. It was just like high quality production. As a musician, like I was just captivated by the talent and by the emotion of the people that were on the stage and in the community. This guy comes out, bleach blonde surfer hair, goatee, Harley shirt on, and talked about how he had never fit in the church growing up. And I was just like, wait, hold on. I don't know about this, Jesus. Who's that guy you're talking about? Because that's not what I grew up learning. So I was just very interested in this like very different conversation, and that God could be for somebody like me who didn't come from, the like Chick-fil-A family. Mm-hmm. And so that night I went to talk to him. We ended up talking for like 3 hours, which, if you know anything about like that doesn't really happen, because you kind of have to insulate your time. And if you say yes to one person, you got to say yes to everybody. And there's a lot of people who want to, shake your hand and have you kiss their babies. But we did, and he became just a dear, dear friend and mentor. Saw something in me that I'm grateful he did. I think sometimes we have seasons where people see things in us that we can't see for ourselves, and he saw that in me. And within a couple months, he put me on stage playing guitar and leading worship. And I loved it. There was, again, I wasn't super theologically sound. I didn't have any business being up there, but I was serving, and I loved it. And what ended up happening was I ended up going full time within, about 6 months. And that was the story. So I served there for a number of years. There was a transition of leadership in the church due to some moral failings, which shook me pretty hard. So I went under the covering of another community where a mentor of mine was serving. Stayed there for 8 years, toured while I was doing that. It was amazing. And then ended up at a final community for about 4 years, or 3 years. And then that's when I decided to step out of ministry, just due to the stress and overwhelm of being on all the time. And we can probably go into that part of the story next, of the behind the scenes of, while it was amazing and I love people, I love that season of life, I love ministry, I love God, I didn't know who I was. And so maybe we'll talk about that next, about the friction of being identified and your identity being around your usefulness and your ability to solve problems. And that's where everything started to fall apart.
I love that discussion. I want to ask you something real quick, just because
Please.
one of my friends, what did he call it? He called it a Jesus juke, I think is what he said. He was like, he's one of those guys that doesn't tell you this is about to be about Jesus, and then he jukes you out, and it's about
Yeah.
Jesus. But somebody saw in me, a good friend of mine saw that I was going through a really rough time, a dark time, and he did the same thing. A little bit of a bait and switch, and that's what I needed. But I say that because I think that it's really cool that you pointed that out. I think a lot of people who need to find their faith find it that way, but also it's not always this traditional, conventional like way. Like it doesn't have, you talk about this like surfer dude coming out, right?
Yeah.
And so I would love to just ask you, as somebody who has so much experience in this realm, and for the people listening, like, do you have to go to church to be a Christian? Do you have to go to church to learn about God and about Jesus and having spirituality and to grow yourself? Like I think that's what most people think is like, I got to buy some khakis and go to church every single Sunday, no matter what. And although I believe you should go to church, what is it like? I mean, I don't know what I'm really asking here, but I think it's cool that you point out evidence of like, that's not what it's about necessarily.
Yeah. Well, one, do you need to go to church to learn about God? No, the beauty is that he gives us a book that we can read at any point in time, and gives you access to that, which is a really beautiful experience, and through the petition of prayer and solitude and quiet places. And so no, you don't have to go to an institution to learn about God. God isn't calling all of us to be a theologian, but I would also have you consider he's not calling us to wonder what he's like. And so just like your kid, come on, my kids, like when you're a dad, like there's that season when they're kids, when all they want to do is hang out with you. Like that's it. Like you're just the coolest. And your whole frame is like, I just want to be as cool as they think I am. And I'm just really grateful that they want to spend as much time with me as they like. It's amazing. I think if we had just 1/10 of that towards our devotion to God, if we would come to him like children, it's like, I just want to know about you. Can we just hang out? Because we get some time together. Can I just go walk in the woods with you, quiet, and just hear your voice? But I think we equate it with more of an obstacle or an obligation. And that's kind of what church becomes. Church, the ecclesia in the early formation was never about what it is today. It wasn't a source of radical evangelism or anything else. It was a place where, you were in true persecution, and Bibles were not easily, available. There were no Bibles. There were just scrolls and texts. And typically those were memorized and passed down because most people couldn't read. Right? That's what made the priests in the high church so valuable, is they were able to read and interpret the scripture. And most people couldn't do that. And so you would get together because, man, you're going to hear another part of the story. But we have to do this like in the quiet and secret places because there's real persecution that's happening in the early church. And so these gatherings were to further the story. And then it became something different, and then it became something different. And it is kind of what it is today, which is more of an institution, and I would say a business, than it is a very, very intimate collection of believers who are just so desperate to learn one more line of God's word and to devote themselves. And so, do you have to go to church? I'll keep it 100 with you, dude. We don't go to church right now. My boys are in football, flag football, baseball, and wrestling. Right now, it's Greco-Roman and freestyle. And my nephews are in baseball right now. And so every weekend, we are hitting like 6 different ball fields, Saturday and Sunday. We're hitting 2 or 3 football games on Saturday. And we usually have entry tournament on where they're seating on Friday night. You're an athlete, you know all this. So we'll watch something on like a sermon on YouTube. There's a church that I really enjoy. But no, we don't have a church home necessarily. And I feel like God and I are closer than we've ever been. That's not to say that community isn't important. Yeah. But we also, I have a brotherhood of men who are, kingdom minded and Christ followers. And so, I teach every single week, and I put out daily scripture references, so they have something to study every single day for themselves and their family. So, we create that.
I think that I want to circle back to the burnout side of things and the identity around role, but what you mentioned is really powerful, because I think that, and I want to be careful how I say this, but church can almost be an excuse to check off a box and act as if you're doing everything right just because you attended. Versus if you are not attending with your family, you got to show up that much more in your household and lead as a husband and father in order to make sure that God is still present in your home and that you're leading the right way. And I think you, from what I could tell, do a really good job at this, man. And it's funny because, you're talking about kids thinking you're the coolest person. Yeah. And I was talking to somebody recently, actually, and it was like, I can't remember what album I was listening to. And I laughed and I was like, I thought this was terrible when I was a kid just because my dad listened to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to listen to this because my dad listens to it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, this is really good. This is a really good album. And what do you have to do in order to, because there's either the person that's forced into the church and forced into certain aspects, even not even just church in general as a kid. And then there's those who are led, right? I know for me, it wasn't present. And that's what, like, I had to get to a dark place to seek that out.
Okay.
But as parents, it's our job to make sure that we don't let our kids get to a dark place or get to that curiosity, but we can't force it on them. So you have to lead them, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to just hear your thoughts on that in general. I think you do a great job on it.
Well, thank you. It's not so complicated. I think we like to make it complicated because it gives us an excuse to not push things forward. Right. And to say, well, I just don't know the word that well, or that's just not how I was raised, or, guys like us, that's just not really what we do. But for me, it's not complicated. It is, I'm a mirror. And let me be 100%, like, it wasn't always that way. I mean, it did take, some like rock bottom moments or whatever, like the unsexy stuff. It takes a pit and it takes a valley to see another mountain. And I recognized that there were some things about myself that needed to die, which is why we have the phrase, what needs to die in me to become the man I said that I'd be. And it's a daily death every day for the resurrection of who you're called to be. But your kids will find you out, dude. Like, your kids are only really little for so long, and you can say things for so long before they recognize that your patterns don't align with what you say. And then you either give them permission to lie about who they are as well, or they just don't listen to you anymore. So for me, what made the most sense was, I'll just model this, and we'll just have the identity associated. Like, this is who we are. This is just what we do. So every morning I read the word, and a lot of times the boys will wake up, come down, see me reading the word. Oh, that's just what we do. So they read it at night, and that's just part of our frame. And the way that we love people, the way that we're generous, the music that we listen to, the way that we conduct ourselves, what we say yes to and what we say no to, what we allow in this house and what we don't allow in this house. And every home is different. So I'm not saying that we're the end all be all. I'm just saying that there are certain things that for us, we just do a little bit differently to set that standard. Otherwise, I'm not who I say I am. And I've lived in that pattern, and I've lived in that pattern of being seen and not being known, and feeling the tension of, if you really knew me, I'm not sure that you would want me to be leading you because you don't know how I feel inside. Realigning that so I'm not passing that kind of trauma on to them. Because if you don't transmit, or if you don't transform the pain, you transmit it. And so we want to make sure that just in our daily habits, are you praying for your wife? If you're married, are you praying for your wife every day? If you're a co-parent, like I'm a co-parent, does your kid or your kids, do they hear you praying for your co-parent? Is that something that you even feel you could do right now? Do they, if you're in a blended family like we are, like, are your kids treated equally and fairly? Are you just across the board? Do you set the tone, right? Do you court your wife? Are you loving towards her? Are you affectionate? Are you present in the school? Do you provide? Are you a protector? Are you physically fit if you're able? Are you someone who commands a certain level of respect? Are you a pioneer? Are you charting new ways and paths to dig deeper into what God's called you to? And I believe that we're all pastors. Like, you're called to pastor your home. And so it's not the church's responsibility for my kids to know about Jesus. That's my responsibility. And that's my privilege and honor, is to be the first pastor that they know, and to hopefully be the safe voice that they always come back to anytime they need someone, just as the prodigal was able to return home and his father ran to him with his finest robe.
What do you think men need to do in order to hold that standard more consistently? Because like
Yeah.
that sounds amazing, but it's not always easy.
It's not easy, but it's also not complicated. And so I find that for me, what works the best, and for our, the guys that I associate with, is just scheduling things out. So I'm a man who, I mean, you can look at my schedule from about 2:45, 3 a.m. to 9:30 when I call it a night and hit the hay. I mean, every 30 minutes is accounted for. And that's not because I want to be really robotic. Like my family time is in there. Like I have very, very strict boundaries. And I think one of the things that holds men back is their lack of boundaries. But if you don't know your purpose, and by that, I just mean the things that you're passionate, called toward to steward effectively. Okay. You're not one thing, because you're not a spoon. You don't just have one utility, but your purpose as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a man of God, as an athlete, as a protector, as a provider, like all of these things that are multifaceted towards like a multidimensional man. Are you stewarding those things well? And we can see that by your calendar. Wake up, you taking care of your body, are you in the Word, are you spending quiet time, getting your mind focused? The reason that we want to do this is every day you kind of have to start over. Like you kind of have to cultivate that momentum every single, listen, I'm a morning person. Okay. Like I love mornings. Dude, my wife's not even a Christian till 9 a.m. And we're very different in that way. I wake up and I'm just like, a freaking squirrel who just munched on Adderall. It's just a weird thing. But then I also have the spiritual gift at night of just like falling asleep anytime I sit in front of a TV. It's just a gift I have. So, but not every day do I'm like, oh, I'm going to crush it. Like I'm not human. Like it happens. And so I know that if I'll just adhere to the things that I say that I'm going to do every morning, then that momentum will follow, because I'm creating those little micro wins, and I'm affirming that, you know what, I didn't feel like it, but this is who I am. And by the time my morning is done, and I don't have 30 million things, I don't cold plunge while reading affirmations and burning sage, spinning 3 times in a circle, silencing the inner bee and all those things. I go to a really posh gym and, I throw some things around and, that's it. And so for most of us, we're not out here slaying dragons, we're just kind of doing what we should be doing to take care of ourselves. But it's not super difficult. If you're able, train in the mornings, get it knocked out. So those good endorphins and those, good neurochemicals are flooding and you have clarity. Listen to a good book while you're on the treadmill, get pumped up, or a nice sermon. So you get the word embedded. Be mindful of what you listen to. When you come home and you're getting ready, man, grab a little dry erase marker out of the cabinet of your vanity and write your wife a little love note on the mirror. If you're able to, sit down with your kids, have breakfast together. Like, who would have thought, have breakfast together, talk about their day. Maybe you've got a quick proverb of the day you want to share with them, something quick and easy, simple. That's what I send the guys every day. Just a little proverb of the day. And then get about it, man, and recognize that you're here on purpose. And that potential isn't an expectation that God has for you to live up to. It's just a promise you get to live from. And when you recognize that God chose you and God called you and God put you here with the passion and the desire that you have in your heart, like that's motivation enough. And your kids are watching. And one day they're going to grow up and graduate, and you're going to sit in front of them and you're going to say, okay, now you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want to be. I have full faith in you. And they're not going to say, Dad, I know, I watched you. I watched you commit every single morning. I watched you at 4 a.m. in the Word. I watched you go to the gym. I watched you come back. I watched you love mom or your wife. I watched you love my wife or love my mom, even if we were divorced. I watched you at breakfast with us. I watched how you encouraged us, how you failed. Man, you really went through it in business. Like you really had some ups and downs, but you never quit. And God just kept expanding what you were up to. And it was crazy to watch because you didn't get it all right. You thought I didn't know, but I knew. You kind of F some things up sometimes. And I didn't mean to say that, but that you did. But I know I can do anything because I watched you do it. Or they're going to say, this is another one of those things that you say because you didn't. So.
That's so good, man. It's, if you can realize that the way you show up, the way you act, your attitude, your actions, everything that they see, like if you can realize that on the front end, like that's what matters so much, man. Like that just is, it's so powerful. as a leader trying to juggle all these things, obviously, this circles us back to that burnout aspect. It
Yeah.
can be a lot, and you're trying to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your experience first, and then I want to kind of ask you for some guidance on working through that. But you experienced, I believe you like sepsis, right? Like
Yeah.
you got
Bad.
real bad. So like,
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't just like depressed. Yeah.
fill us in. What was that?
Man, so that happened in 2017. But that was the capsize moment of 13 years. And so when I got into ministry, what I didn't realize was as great as it was, and I loved the season, I was not prepared for trauma I didn't know existed. I grew up, again, I said the first few years of my life were pretty tumultuous. Had a parent who had some really unhealthy tendencies, a lot of suicidal ideation, so when you're 6 years old and you're trying to convince someone to, not take their life or that everything's going to be okay, and that's every day. Well, you never learn how to really have emotions for yourself because like everything is so high, your nervous system is always on high alert. But then the only time you're ever praised or like, I love you, you're so amazing, is on the backside of those moments. And so you learn, unless there's chaos, unless I'm solving a massive problem, unless I'm talking somebody off a ledge, I'm not worth loving because you don't tell me unless that's what's happening. And so the problem with getting into an industry and a calling where all you're doing is serving people is even with the best intentions, if you don't understand your tendencies, it can become too much. So what happened is, I started getting addicted to affirmation. I felt like I didn't even deserve to be up there. Like a lot of the people that I served with had more degrees than me and spoke more eloquently. They didn't have an accent, like they were from, rural Oklahoma. There was just a lot of things. And so everything came back to, I'm only as valuable as the problems I'm solving. So then you couple that with, I get married, and I do not know any frame. My grandparents they weren't like affectionate. They were married, but they weren't affectionate, slept in separate bedrooms, just a different culture. And so I never saw healthy like love in a couple modeled. All I knew was chaos. And so, bless that's mom's heart. Like, man, I would just create chaos because I'm like, I need us to be in chaos because then I can calm it down and then you'll keep loving me. And I realize it. And it was just here and there, but then you couple that with, I'm also working like 18 hours a day because those are problems I know how to solve and I'm useful to everyone. And if I'm useful, then I'm being loved. It was 2015 when she let me know that she didn't want to do it anymore, and that I had been trying, but she had been faking, and she just wasn't in it. And that would have been enough to kind of spiral you, and it did. I mean, I didn't see it coming. Like, I had no awareness, dude. My head was so far up myself, like I couldn't see anything. I was just a machine doing, like, just going all the time. And, but then over the course of the next year, just all hell broke loose. So I stayed in ministry, which that means I got to keep the mask on and everything's okay. But inside, dude, I'm dying, man. Like I'm so hurt. I've lost my identity as a husband. I'm losing my identity as a full-time dad. She started, seeing someone, which they're married now and have kids, and we're all great friends. It's amazing. But at the time, it's like, man, there's another dude in the picture, and like, he's with my kid too. And so that's really hard to reconcile. And a couple weeks after, she let me know, this was in November, my 18-month-old niece was murdered. So I led her funeral, like just fresh off of learning like that she doesn't want to be married to me. So that happened. Then I lost a few different family members. I lost a mentor. I lost 3 pastor friends to suicide. Lost my best friend to suicide. Buried him on my birthday, 33rd birthday, and then lost a 19-year-old sister who was murdered. And all of this while going through a divorce, while trying to be all things to all people, and everything's okay. And I don't know if maybe some of you guys can relate to this, of where you ever just have things just stack up so much that you can't even process it anymore. It's just almost like ringing like a low ringing, and you're just kind of going through the motions, and it's not healthy, but like you don't know what else to do. So you just keep going, and you can't even process it all. You're just kind of numb. But everything's okay. Everything's okay. I got sick one night and I had Stetson. So I called Courtney and I was like, hey, I need you to come pick Stet up. Like, I'm real sick. Like, I don't want him to catch this. Like, this is bad. And by the time she got there, I guess I was like going in and out of consciousness. She had let herself in because, I mean, totally fine. And she's like, you got to go to the hospital. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm okay. Just get him out of here. She's like, no, like something's actually not right. You need to go to the hospital. And I guess I passed out. I guess she drugged me into her car and took me. So people are always like, why don't you ever call your ex-wife? I'm like, well, we didn't work married, but she's my son's mom. And she legit saved my life. And I'd also say like the divorce saved my life. And gave me a chance to be who I could become. And, but yeah, that turned into going septic and being unconscious for a few days and having to rewire some things. That's when I stepped out of ministry occupationally. I just needed to figure, like, this was going to kill me. I needed to figure out why I was wired the way that I was. So we're talking therapy 3 times a week, like just going deep on myself. I never set out to start like a movement or anything. I really just needed to save my own life. And then along the way of sharing that story and staying inside of the conversation of leadership, I recognize there's a lot more men that don't have a safe place to talk about these things or to even just amplify their wins and be who God's called them to be.
How long? I know you had to do therapy, and obviously I'm sure you're doing coaching, you're reading books, you're doing practices. Like how long did it take for you to feel normal again, to get back to normal, to start being productive and not being burnt out and kind of learning the lessons inside of those things? Well,
sure. I mean, I started getting healthy. The therapy was really useful pretty quick. And not being in that environment was weird because I literally lost all of my identity. That's all I had done since I was 19, bro. That's all I knew. I don't know if any of you have ever, you've done something for so long and then it's taken away, whether it's a marriage or a career that you've had. And it can be a really healthy shedding in some ways, but also you're like Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, this is all I've ever known. And you just feel odd. And, it's been said, like, a man without purpose is a ship without a rudder. That's how I felt. I was like, I don't know what to do right now, but I knew I had bills. So I was flipping Harleys out of my garage. And, I've been a licensed barber for about the same time as mechanic. So I was cutting hair all the time and building websites and doing graphic design and playing shows on the weekends that I didn't have Stetson. I just made it all work while getting myself healthy. Started working out. I mean, I was always athletic, but like scrawny athletic. You know what I mean? Like, I was 130 pounds soaking wet. Just a little guy. I'm 5'6" for anybody that's wondering. Everybody meets me in person. They're like, oh my God, you look so much taller on the internet. I'm like, yeah, I thought you'd be thinner. That's an old picture, isn't it? Is that AI? So at any rate, so now, and I just say that because now I'm like 175. So I've thrown on some thick. But it didn't take, it was a process, but I was open to it. And, it took time. I quickly got into a very unhealthy relationship, and that thwarted things for a while. And just, I wasn't healthy through it, and I hadn't done enough work. And, it was detrimental to Stetson. It was detrimental to my co-parenting when that, came to an end, and I was able to find another therapist who wouldn't let me coach them. Because I could do that. I could flip things, so I didn't have to answer the hard questions. Found this little 5'2" Romanian woman with more degrees than I had excuses. And I got 30 minutes into one of the conversations, and she just stopped me. She's like, is this what you do? I was like, what? She's like, you just charm your way through therapy? I'm like, yeah, this is what I need. Cool, here we are. And she just ripped Band-Aids off for years. And it was during that time that I met my wife. And I would say, genuinely, Sarah is the embodiment of God's grace in my life. And her peace is, I never thought I deserved peace. It was not until she stood with me in my pain and stood with me in really walking through all the experiences that I was really just did not want to confront, that I'd walked through, and looked at all of my shame and looked at all of my insecurities and loved me anyway. It's probably as close to the love of God as I've ever experienced. And I fought it. I tried to do the fight thing, just because that's all I knew. And she had this little code. She'd be like, "Hey, Brad Pitt, are we doing Fight Club today?" And that's when I knew, like, oh yeah, I don't have to do this. Oh yeah, I don't have to do this. I don't. And so then it became just a new normal to not, and to really accept that I could live in peace, and that could be okay for me, and that you just love me. And wow, now I can do anything, because now I don't have to do it to prove anything. I don't have to do it to hide anything. I don't have to do it to protect anything. I just get to do it because I'm called to it. And I'll say, for the men and for the women, man, if you have a spouse who stands with you, who supports you, who sees you in the dark places, and especially if you're someone, and I'm sure that you are, because you're listening to this podcast, you're called to something deeper and you're called to something more, man, there's a real internal fight there. And you have to fight against yourself every single day, almost, because there's I call it a sacred tension between where you are and what you're called to. And it always exists, and you're always leveling up, and you can't figure out why. Like, you just can't be content. Like, why can't I just, like, I'm so grateful, but why can't I just be okay here? There's just some interior motivation to just, I got to keep going and keep going. And sometimes your spouse will be like, "You're not in competition with anybody. What are you trying to prove?" And you're like, it's just, and you think you're a disappointment, but you're not. And they're so proud of you and so just elated to be with you, and you can't see it because you have a hard time just even loving yourself. Man, give thanks for that partner that you have, because they're gold. And it's their steadiness in our, called to more, sometimes manicness, that creates that stable ship.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that learning to love yourself and find that value outside of your role, is that the key to stripping that identity? And that doesn't mean you got to stop doing the thing, but when a mother's kid graduates and moves out or whatever, that's a huge shift. I mean, absolutely. I remember when my daughter went from preschool to kindergarten, and it went from a few days to 5 days. My wife was like, "Oh my gosh, this is wild." Yeah. And I remember seeing that, and at first not getting it, because I've been at work 5 days a week no matter what. Yeah. And it really, I sat there with her and was like, wow, this is a big shift for you. I get it. That's tough. But those shifts are great. They happen. Mm-hmm. Is the answer finding, because I relate to this so much, man, is the answer finding value in yourself outside of your role? Is that the key? What do you feel like is the key to I don't know, I don't even know what I'm asking, but it's just I think there's so much attached to the title of your role. Well,
and we do that too. Especially now culturally, it didn't used to matter as much, with my grandparents' generation and things, you just did what you did. Yeah. And that was fun. But now there's a lot, just the generation that we have, just so consumer heavy and so identity heavy on what you have or don't have, and the vanity metric of social media and everything propped up against a false narrative of what success actually looks like. Are you good with you when you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you see yourself, and regardless of what you do you believe in your soul that you were chosen by God? Do you believe in your soul that you're a good human being? And by good, I don't mean you check all the boxes. I mean, not for an act, not to prove something. Are you okay with you? Are you okay with quiet time by yourself? And I don't mean with your headphones in at the gym. I mean sitting in a dark room and not saying anything. And I believe that we all have to get to a point where we get very, very close to who God says that we are. We have to get intimately close with that, with ourselves. And out of that, then we get to create. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with finding value in what you do. I don't think there's anything wrong with finding personal satisfaction and confidence in what you do. I believe that when you're called, there should be a healthy amount of confidence and certainty that is rooted in the foundation that I am here on purpose and I am fulfilling that purpose in every role and facet and walk of life. And God continues to provide opportunity that I say yes to, not out of obligation, but because obedience calls me to steward effectively and to steward with as much humility, but also tenacity as possible. I believe that procrastination is nothing more than an arrogant assumption that God's going to give you another day to do what he's called you to today. And we call it a defense mechanism, or it's a trauma trigger and all these things. Okay. Who do you want to be? What's that going to require? Who's it going to require? And then execute in that integrity. Will you get it right every single day? Not 100% perfect, but that's fine. There's grace for that. But the problem is if you get so wrapped up in the identity of what you do that when that shifts, if you're a personal trainer, you get in a car accident and can't work out for 6 months to a year, it'll wreck your identity. I've watched it happen when all you have is being known by your body. If you put all your chips into a marriage and it doesn't work and then your identity shifts there, I've watched many a man break and lose themselves. And so all of those things and those external markers are important, and you definitely push to solidify your identity as a leader in all of those, while also recognizing that who you are is enough for Jesus.
Do you think that this is why? I mean, maybe I believe this more so just because I'm in it, but there seems to be this just resurgence of people seeking Jesus and trying to find more about faith and more about what life is for and what their purpose is and all these things. But I feel like even the music scene, it's just growing and growing and you just see it constantly. It's and it's funny because for me, it was like 2023, the summer of 2023, I think it was when I've felt pulled and I've ignored that for a long time. I did the classic, I've done this multiple times in my life. You probably relate. I'm good.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Fine.
I'm all right. Like everything's good.
Got this. Built different.
Yeah, exactly. Until it's not. And you're not.
Yeah.
But that's what, I ended up leaning into it and I felt, it changed my life. And now I'm seeing this like grow. And I'm like, how many men were out there that went through the same thing at the same time as me? Yeah. It just isn't seen all over the media right then because they're going through it. And now it's like this resurgence. It's growing. Do you feel like there's been this, what is this? Does it have to do with so many people in the same generation having a similar experience with their fathers? Whether it's fatherless homes, fathers not being leaders. Is it a matter of just God not being involved in enough? Is it just the downfall of all these other things that like sent people searching for like what do you think this is that is causing this?
I'd say yes to all of it. I don't think there's one thing that it points to. And also, man, I think people are just tired, dude.
Yeah.
Especially on the backside. I don't want your like podcast flagged or anything, but like on the backside of what happened in like 2020 and 2021 and the whole country being shut down on the premise of one thing. And then that turning out to be like, even now, like a lie.
Yeah.
Right. Like that this did not need to happen. And these protocols did not need to take. There's so much that's been going on over the past few years that has people so tired. They're like, what can I actually trust?
Yeah.
And so you have, I say just a collection of a lot of people who are just like, yeah, culture pushed me away from this, and culture pushed me away from traditional values and made a mockery of Jesus and made a mockery of faith. And they lied to me. And if all of those things were a lie, what if this was a lie too? And maybe what if the very thing I needed was the very thing that I was convinced was wrong and pushed away from? And I don't trust you anymore. But I think I remember what it looked like to trust this thing. Or at least I know people who trust this, and they seem to have more peace than I have. And it's not about singing songs on a Sunday morning. It's not how, loud your shout is or how high your hands are. All of those things can be manufactured. You can go to a Coldplay concert and do the same thing. This is a heart posture. This is economy is shifting and jobs are being lost and AI is replacing things at an alarming rate and interest rates are high and there's just inflation is crazy and mental health is out of control and you have all these things going on and you find yourself on your knees like, what do I actually believe in? And you get quiet enough and you recognize God's been whispering the whole time. We've just gotten so accustomed to the noise that we drown him out. That's my belief.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that it's really refreshing to be able to talk to people and hear these. I mean, there's just, I don't know. I mean, it's the people I involve myself with, I guess, too. But even just in general, just it's becoming more normal. Like common sense is becoming common again.
Yeah. Yes. And I think the last few months, especially, I think we had a turn in some leadership and that created a new level of normalcy to talk about what we would consider normal things and then to shine a light on things that were never normal to begin with that people just accepted. And so which begs the conversation of why healthy leadership is so important and why so many of you who are listening to this, you're doing a disservice by playing small, and you're doing a disservice by not listening to the call and the stirring that's deep in your soul. Because we can see what happens when the world's left to lead itself. We need strong leaders now more than ever. So more than your insecurity and more than, is it too late for me or have I gone too far or are people still going to listen to me or would they have ever listened to me in the first place? The miracle is not your responsibility. The movement forward is. When the sea was split, Israel had no idea what was on the other side. They couldn't see anything. It wasn't a clean break. All they knew is, okay, in faith, 1 foot in front of the other. The sea split. I don't know where we're going. I don't know, but the Spirit is with me and God is with me. And that was what the promised land always was. That's why in the Exodus story, and I think Exodus 33, God speaks to Moses, said, I'll take you to the promised land, but I won't go with you. He calls them a stiff-necked people because they start worshiping other idols, start doing other things, start trying to make a way and listen to false things because they didn't recognize that it was never about the place. It was always about God's presence. And so for so many of you, recognize that there's a stirring in you for a reason. And we need healthy leadership. We've seen that now more than ever. So it is your time to step up and to step in. But I say that to say now because, normal is becoming a bit more normal. And it's not just that. I mean, people are like, it's cool to not drink alcohol now, which is great. It's never really been that way. And so like the sober movement is on the rise, which I think is really, really amazing. And you got to be mindful. There's a lot of people that talk about Jesus from the stage and it's more marketing than it is, message. But we've definitely seen a shift.
What do you, just based on, the chapter of life that you're in right now, all that you've been in, it seems, how old are you?
41.
It seems like you've been through a lot and you've gone through
crazy.
So many different chapters of life at that age, man. It's nuts. Like you have the life of experience of a 70-year-old. It seems like it's
bro, over 140 funerals at this point. Isn't that crazy?
It's wild.
It's weird.
Terrible, but it's so at this point, especially given that your what you do with a lot of your time is coach and lead other men. What do you feel like is the biggest problem you see, or what is the biggest problem that you're helping solve and create solutions for these men?
It's a great question. And I think it's multifaceted. I wish I could give you a really quick, nice Twitter clip, but it's deeper than that. So why are most men struggling right now? Well, most men are struggling because they don't understand what their purpose is. Or if they do, they don't have the community and the support and the infrastructure around them to be able to execute on that effectively. They weren't taught how. And so we're what's called like the disposable generation. So if you think about it, dude, think about anything we buy. Nothing is meant to last anymore. You think your phone, everything. You buy it, 2 to 3 year shelf life, and then you just replace it. Your car, anything. We lease cars now, so we don't have to worry about maintenance in the long term. Houses aren't even built to sustain anymore. Cheaply built with cheap material. Everything is fast. Our fashion is fast. It's very inexpensive. Like, it wasn't about buying a quality shirt you're going to have for 20 years. It is, I'll buy a shirt. It's okay. It was only $5. I'll buy another one. An appliance goes out. I'm not going to call a repair guy. That's going to be X amount of dollars. I can just put this other thing on a payment plan. That's a couple $100 more, but now I have a new one. So everything's about new. Everything is disposable. Our relationships are disposable. People don't want to fight for a marriage anymore. Not as a whole. People aren't fighting for working, like getting it. That's why we have a delayed generation of adults who play video games in their mom's basement. There's, again, not a call out, just a recognition that we've created a culture that doesn't actually know what delayed gratification is. And so part of the purpose of a man is to push forward and to work in delaying that gratification, because that's where the purpose is found. Purpose, again, it was never about the place. It was always about the process and the spirit. It was always about who you become in the process. We haven't been taught that well. There is no real rite of passage for men right now. We have not been to war in quite some time. There's no draft. There's nothing that creates a shift. And so we grow up, which is why we say, man, our parents felt so much older than we feel at the same age. Yeah, it was a different time, not as convenient as it is. Things have become so convenient that a man has lost a sense of what it is to be a man. Not to mention, culture demonizes what it is to be a healthy masculine man. And so then you have men who hide because they don't want to be criticized or lumped into that conversation. And we love women. Healthy men love, like, their wives love women. And we want to give them everything that they desire. That's part of, like, our DNA. Well, when they want more responsibility and they want more opportunity, they want all those things, we give it and we give it and we give it to the point where now we've given things away that were inherently masculine, and we've clouded the entire conversation of, like, what it means to be a man and a woman in a marriage, in a marketplace. And so it's a very deep conversation. I also believe that, and this has been more of a recent conversation I've been having, that technology is advancing faster than we can understand what our purpose is inside of it. And so it leaves you with this really unsettling feeling of, like, am I going to, like, everything that I've spent the last 20 years becoming an expert in, is it going to be automated next year? Am I gone? Is everything, is the pension, is everything that I've worked for, if I'm in a salary position, if I've been putting in the time, they're just going to lay me off because now they've got a bot that can do what I have done? So it leaves this very weird tension of uncertainty. And so I think that men, it's been said, men lead a life of quiet desperation. And so it's my belief that a man needs community, but he needs qualified community. He needs a community of men and a band of brothers who will surround him like a shield, who will pray for him and pray for his family, but also he can confide in them where God has called him, and they can hold him accountable to that. Again, not out of some expectation of an unhealthy father placing his thumb on you and he's not proud of you unless you win every time. But no, we have real souls at stake, and we have real impact at stake. And we have real time that's working against us while working for us if we'll utilize it in an effective way. So imagine you have a community surrounding you that believes in you, that champions you, that is there to support you, that can answer questions when you have questions, because you will have questions, that can help you dial things in physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Like, that's what a man needs. And he needs a reason to get up. He needs a reason to put his hands to something of meaning. And it is my belief that that is found outside of himself. I believe that's found in his family. I believe that's found in his kids. And then I believe that's found in how he conducts himself in the marketplace.
I love that, man. It's been interesting to see, and obviously there's part of it, I mean, this is actually another great example. I was going to say it might be because of what I'm talking about, because of what I'm interested in.
Sure.
But it's for the same reason that I'm interested in these things. But there's been a growth in, the percentage of our listeners, the male percentage has grown as we've grown. And my followers on Instagram, the male percentage has grown as we've grown. And I think men are searching for these things. And sometimes they don't know what they're searching for. So they don't. And that's the hard part, because for a lot of guys who haven't experienced something like what you're talking about, they don't even know it exists. They don't know what it costs. They don't know what it's about. They don't know who to follow and how to find it and what to look for. And it's good that men like us are putting this stuff out more often, because it creates a better awareness, because there's so many guys that they're searching for something, they don't know what they're searching for. There's a hole they're trying to fill. There's a void that they're trying to fill and fix, but they're searching for something they don't even know exists, And I think it is exactly what you're talking about, and it's so powerful.
Yeah. When you I tried to find a lot of places. I'll full disclosure myself. Like, I tried to find it in the bottom of a bottle for a while. That didn't work. Just feel like crap the next day. Then you got to keep it up so that, you don't feel as awful. And that's a pit in and of itself. When I was single, I hurt some people emotionally when, I was dancing around from just trying to fill a void and feel like I was desirable and desired, and do I still got it, and all these things. And so I didn't do that perfectly or well. And there's a lot of messy seasons. And I think if we can be okay with that, not assign judgment to ourselves as a result of it, like, yeah, that wasn't healthy. And man, I'm deeply, deeply regretful for the people I bled on who never cut me, because I wasn't responsible with my pain, because I didn't know how to be responsible with it, because it was too much. And that's not an excuse. I just didn't know what to do. And being a man is recognizing that, and then getting the tools required to, okay, yep, that was a trash season. Yep, listen, it wasn't my proudest moments. Even right now, you might be in a pit, and you might be in one of your not proud moments. Okay, let's not assign identity to it. You're in this place. Let's move forward. Whether that be therapy, whether that be a community or a brotherhood or a mastermind or, something of the sort. I can tell you a couple of things that would be really healthy for you to do right off the bat. If you drink, stop drinking. Start eating healthy food, and go move your body. Just go to the gym. Those are great places to start.
Tell everybody where they can find some of the stuff that you offer, because I really, really appreciate your time and enjoy this conversation. I mean, it's powerful stuff that I'm very, very passionate about, and I think more people need to hear. But I also just want to highlight the fact that, and obviously, as somebody's listening to this, they would have heard the intro I record separately, and I'm going to drop some of these things, but you don't know this. There hasn't been a moment where you've really shined any light on your business success, wealth, accolades, what you're a part of, and I think people listening, like barber, mechanic, like you're a content creator. You're a very creative person. You're an artist. I mean, you talk about musician, all these things. But you didn't talk about how you're also a very, very intelligent entrepreneur, and you are a part of a lot of big things, and you have a lot of experience with business and money and wealth and all these things. So, and I know that just because I know you personally. Yeah. So I just want to highlight that, like, you're you're a wealth of knowledge. You know so much, and I think it's really cool because we touched on the identity aspect, yet you didn't sit there and talk about your identity from a standpoint of like, oh, well, I have all these things and do all these things, and I'm important to all these people for these reasons. And, but that being said, I know people listening who do need this, especially guys listening who need this kind of thing. Yeah. Their ears perk up when they're like, oh, he also makes good money and knows how to run a business and stuff too. So I wanted to point that out before you talk a little bit about, what you guys offer and do. But please just fill the listeners in. Like, what is it, like, your main thing that you would pitch or tell the audience about right now? Because I want people to know about it. Oh, well, I mean, again, the reason I don't lead with it is because the main thing that I do is I'm a husband and a father. Main thing is I'm a trophy husband and I'm a super dad. That's it. Love that. Everything else is tinsel. But yeah, I mean, we want to talk about the conversation. So I do own a coaching consulting company. So we consult one-to-one with founders who in the growth and scale process. So we've been a part of assisting in some pretty large exits or into the multiple nine figures.
And so that's been a really fun experience. It's not fun in the moment, I'll tell you, but it is fun through it. I have several masterminds that I'm a part of facilitating and running. I'm a top 20 keynote speaker. I have an apparel company with one of my best friends, Tip. It's called Spiritual World Tour. I sit on the board of a major sustainable energy company as the director of our AI services across the board. So you think like aggregating around 250,000 leads per month and segmenting those and creating different technologies that don't actually exist right now. So I'm knee deep in the AI conversation and in the conversation of business leadership and development and the conversation of how do we help good men become great and handle the growth of their infrastructure and help them become better leaders and facilitators without sacrificing their soul on the altar of that success. So healthier communication dynamics at home, steady intimacy in the home, recognizing that that's your ministry first. How to become, healthy, loving, present fathers if we're right now kind of addicted to the climb and the chase. How do we establish really healthy boundaries inside of our family infrastructure? And how do we recognize the time only comes here once? And in the midst of that, I'm still a preacher, man. You can probably hear it in the way that I talk and the way that I talk about God. I believe that the pulpit was always preparation for this platform. And so I'm doing my best right now. Again, I haven't done it perfectly, but doing my best to steward it well and to steward it in a way that there is humility. So I don't ever lead with the success of things. I do well. I also, sit on boards with legitimate, men who are in venture capital and worth billions. And so for me to flex is almost like it's just nonsensical. You only flex on the internet when you're trying to sell a lifestyle. And, you go to my website, I'll plug it, codyjefferson.com, not hard to find. You're going to see success is built on a simpler time. I drive a 95 Power Stroke. I drive an 84 GMC short wide that we just put an LS in. And I drive an 89 Bronco 2. I got some fun cars as well, but like day to day, you're usually going to find me in an F-250. That's a Lambo out here in Oklahoma. People ask me, like, dude, why don't you have a supercar? I'm like, have you been here? Have you driven on these roads? Like, what in your right mind would think that would ever be a good idea? Like, our speed bumps, goodbye to your entire front clip. It's gone. So it just doesn't happen here. That's not the way that our infrastructure is built, which then begs the question why people say, and I'll leave with this, is do you have to leave where you're from in order to become successful? I get that question a lot. Why don't you go to a place where like you can have that lifestyle and like, you could live like a lot of my friends and the people that I do business with are in major cities and that's their lifestyle and it works really well for them. Cody, here's the deal. I know what it is to be successful. I know what it is to be broke and have a lot of money. And what I never get back is time. And my son lives here, and so does his mom. And I would never create a split between us. And you couldn't pay me enough money to move away from him. My grandmother is still alive, and she lives 5 minutes from me. I get to see her every day. My sister is my best friend, and her nephews are like my kids. And I get to spend every single weekend with them on the ball field. I have a wife who has family here that we love and is a big part of our day-to-day. And so the richest man in the room is not the one with the most money. It is the one who's collecting memories that will never fade. Your legacy will not be about what you leave behind in a trust. It will be what the people that stand over your casket say about you. I've led enough funerals to know what people wish they would have done differently when they pass, and how the people felt about them standing in the room. And so to me, success will be that it's standing room only, that there'd be a line of people who would come to shake my son's hands that said, I heard your dad passed. I never met him, but he changed my life. And so I just wanted to come meet you because he talked about you guys all the time.
So good, man. We'll end it on that, dude. That is a phenomenal way
to
wrap this up. And I feel very, very grateful and blessed to know you a bit personally and just like you just said, man, to follow you, to get inspiration from you.
Yeah.
And I know when I look at you, what inspires me, what I respect most about you, and what I see as the wealth you have that I desire, and it's not the financial side.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head, and it's easier to get that that advice from you because you've had that too, and you have that too.
And I'll say I do, and respectfully, I do have money, and so it is. I think it's probably easier to say that now that I'm on the other side of it. And you should want to, just listen, full disclosure, you should want to make as much money as possible. You 100% should, because most problems are solved by money. And if you're called to be a problem solver, if you're called to create impact in the world of justice or other philanthropical endeavors, prayer is absolutely important. Money is what moves the needle forward. And so you need as much money as possible to create impact. I'm huge in the anti-trafficking scene and support the Demand Project, which is the largest long-term restoration facility for girls 11 to 17 trafficked in the United States. Over 2 million kids annually trafficked, and we have less than 600 beds in the United States for their long-term care. That's a problem. And when you can tie your calling to a problem that's that big, that'll be all the motivation you need to get out of bed. So if you find yourself lacking a desire, find something that irritates you and makes you angry and go pursue being the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, man. I'm going to link everything in the description so you guys can check out content from Cody. You can check out his website, find out more about his coaching and everything he does.
Yeah.
And again, man, I just appreciate you coming on here. I really honor you as an individual. So thank you so much for spending time and creating value for the listeners.
Thank you, brother. Honored to be here.